This is the video notes that are going to go with guiding notes, multiplying and factoring polynomials number 4. So in these notes, we are going to combine a lot of the information we learned in our notes on part 2, but we're also going to have to be focusing on more minus signs and combinations of pluses and minuses. Okay, so at the top part, let's go ahead and work this out just to practice our full method. Again, we're just going to do that distributive property. So I'm going to start this problem with 2x times 4x, which is 8x squared. Then I'm going to do 2x times negative 8, which is negative 16. So that's minus 16x. Then distribute with the 3 right here. So I'm going to have 3 times 4x, which is 12x. And then I've got 3 times negative 8, which is negative 24 or minus 24. And of course, we know the last step is to combine our like terms. So we have 8x squared. Now negative 16 plus 12 is negative 4. So minus 4x minus 24. Okay. Now, number 2. Again, let's run through this one. 5x times 2x is 10x squared. 5x times 1 is 5x. Negative 5 times 2x is negative 10x or minus 10x. Negative 5 times positive 1 is negative 5, so write minus 5. And let's combine our like terms. So 10x squared. For B, we got 5x minus 10x, which is plus 5x, and then minus 5. Okay. Now, example 3. I want you to remember we called this the other day in our notes difference of squares. Why difference of squares? Because everything about the two binomials are exactly the same except for one is plus and one is a minus. Okay, so let's go ahead and multiply. 4x times 4x is 16x squared. 4x times negative 2 is negative 8x or minus 8x. 2 times 4x is 8x, so plus 8x. And then 2 times negative 2 is negative 4, so minus 4. Now, again, look what happens. Look what happens when we combine these like terms right here. Minus 8x plus 8x, they cancel each other out. Sometimes we call it a zero pair because negative 8 plus 8 is 0. Either way, it's not there anymore, and we've got minus 4. Okay, remember, difference of squares is the only time you're going to multiply two binomials together to get a binomial answer. Okay, now go ahead and pause, make sure you've got all this copied out, and then we'll go to part 2. Okay, now part 2 is dealing with the foiling. So we're going to use the same 4 steps that we used in our notes on part 2 of polynomials. Again, we're just going to have to focus time with some negatives and minuses that we didn't have last time. Okay, because in part 2, all of our numbers were all positives and pluses. Okay, so our first step, our trinomial is 8x squared plus 2x minus 3. Our first step is to find AC. So that is 8 times negative 3. Remember that minus stays with 3 as a negative, and that gives me negative 24. Okay, now the second part is what we call the factor and replace part. Remember, this is where we're going to look for two numbers that multiply to give me negative 24, which comes from right here, but it's going to combine. I'm going to use the word combine because we're doing positive negatives. So sometimes it might be adding, sometimes it might be subtracting. But to combine like terms to give me a positive 2. Okay, those two numbers are going to be 6 and -4. Because think about that. 6 times -4 is -24, but 6 plus -4 or 6 minus 4 is +2. Okay, so you remember we're going to stretch this out just like that, and we're going to replace the 2x with the factors of 6 and -4x's. So the 6 is going to be positive, okay, and the 4 is going to be negative. Now I want to stop right here because where we place it is important, okay? I need to put the -4x with the 8x, and I need to put the 6x right here with the 3. The reason I need to do that is because in the next step, we got to split and find the GCF, okay? Now, 8 and 4 have a GCF. 6 and 3 have a GCF. But I want you to think about something. What would have happened if I had put the 4 right here instead of the 6? If I'd have taken this 4 right here and put it right here instead of the 6, I would have had 4 and 3. 4 and 3 do not have a GCF other than 1. So I would not be able to do any real factoring. Okay? So order does matter. Okay? Now, my GCF on this first half, well, GCF of 8 and 4 is 4. X squared and x, it is an x. Okay, on this side, my GCF of 6 and 3 is 3. Okay, and I don't have any x's on my GCF. Now, I'm going to factor here. So GCF of 4x, well, 4x times 2x gives me 8x squared minus 1, because 1 times 4x is 4x. Okay. Plus my GCF right here of 3. Well, 3 times 2x gives me this 6x right here. Minus 1, because 3 times 1 gives me -3 right there. Again, are my parentheses exactly the same? Yes. Okay. Now, if you get to this step and these two parentheses are not identical, here's your strategy. If these are not identical, then you're going to go right back up here and switch them. Okay. That means you probably put these in the wrong spot. Right here's your mistake. Okay. Just throwing that out there. Now, our last step is to take our GCFs to make one binomial, 4x plus 3. And then we're going to use our binomial we already have here as our second one. Okay. Now, make sure you got that copied down, and I'm going to flip the page and we'll go over to number 5 and work it. We got 2 more, and they're the same process. The numbers are getting a little bit bigger. They a lot of times do because we're multiplying A and C together. Okay. Now, if I take a look right here, A times C, that's 4 times -45, which is going to give me -180. Okay. We need to factor it. So again, what are we thinking about? 2 numbers that are going to multiply to give me a -180, but when they combine, I'm going to get the -8. Okay, well, those two numbers are going to be negative 18 and positive 10. Because negative 18 times 10 is negative 180. Negative 18 plus 10 is negative 8. Okay, now we're going to rewrite our equation here for x squared and then the minus 45. Now I got to make sure I get these in the appropriate spot. Okay, now I'm going to put the 10 with the 4. And I'll explain why in just a second. And I'm going to put the negative 18 with the 45. Now, I actually did a little trial and error with this to make sure this would work. Okay, 4 and 10 have a GCF. 18 and 5 have a GCF. Okay, and those GCFs are going to allow us to have the same binomial. Okay, now let's take a look right here. The GCF here, again, is going to be 2x. The GCF here is going to be negative 9. Now, I want you to just stop for just a second. How many times does 2 go into 10? 5, don't it? How many times does 9 go into 45? 5. Okay, so that was part of my thought process is in placement. The 2 is going to go into the 10 5 times. The 9 is going to go into the 45 5 times. So most likely that's going to give me the same factored binomial. Okay, well, let's factor 2x right here. All right, so 2x times 2x squared is where I get my 4x squared from. I'm not 4 squared, but 2x. And plus 5, because 2 times 5 is 10, and I don't need an x. Okay, now right here, my GCF is negative 9, so I'm going to put a minus 9 in parentheses. Now, negative 9 times 2x gives me negative 18x. Negative 9 goes into negative 45 plus 5. Okay, notice again, we'll stop right there. Are these exactly the same? If they are not, then you need to go back up here to your B and start switching them and see if you put them in the wrong spot. Okay, because it will not work if these are switched incorrectly. Okay, now last step. 2x minus 9 from my GCFs, and then my resulting binomial, 2x plus 5, and I'm done. Okay, pause and copy, and then we'll go to our last example. Okay, number 3 right here. 8x squared plus 10x minus 25. If I'm looking for AC, I'm going to do 8 times negative 25, which is going to be negative 200. Okay, I need to factor in place B. So again, we're going to multiply to get negative 200, but we're going to combine to get positive 10. So my two numbers are 20 and negative 10, because 20 times negative 10 is negative 200, but 20 minus 10 is 10. Okay, now I need to factor right here, or factor out the 10x to the 20 and negative 10. So I'm going to come right here and say 8x squared plus 20x minus 10x minus 25. Okay. The next thing we're going to do is split that right there in half. Okay. My GCF over here is going to be 4x. My GCF over here is going to be negative 5. Okay. So let's factor this out and see if this works. So GCF for x, well, 4x times 2x gives me 8x squared plus 4x times 5 gives me 20x. Okay, this side, my GCF is negative 5, so I'm going to put down minus 5 in my parentheses. Now, negative 5 times positive 2x gives me 10x. Negative 5 times positive 5 gives me negative 25. Again, are my parentheses the same? Yes. So I'm pretty sure that I'm correct. Okay. It's hard to get these the same and be wrong. Okay. So I've got 4x minus 5 in one parentheses, and in my 2x plus 5 in my other parentheses. Okay. Now go ahead and finish copying these, put these notes in your interactive notebook, and you can work on your assignment.